ago in the Library Systems Office at Queens. These are 4 of the 6 new HP printers we just ordered for each of our 6 library locations. I was kind of looking at them and just thinking about like the millions of pages that these printers are going to print over their lifetime, and just the number of hours that people are going to spend staring at these pages. And I thought, you know, when it comes to like our electronic collections, it's interesting to think about like just like the 8.5 by 11 page is one of our more significant access points, one of our more significant interfaces. So yeah, so I'm just thinking that got me thinking about, you know, rendering web content, you know, for the 8.5 11 page. So this presentation is just going to be about like a little sort of proof of concept bookmarklet that I've been working on for the past few weeks. Because what I'm doing is I've created this bookmarklet that takes the web page and then converts it to a PDF using LaTeX, LaTeX typesetting system. So just do a little demo right now. All right. Here's a posting from Boing list of the best magazine articles ever. Here's a link to an article that was printed in Esquire in 1971 about telephone hackers. So it's our magazine article, printed all in HTML, very long, not the best way to read this text. And so we can take this article and we can use this little bookmarklet called Readability, and Readability will fetch the HTML, sort of strip it down, and format it in a way that is a little bit more readable for the page. Readability will like try to determine what's navigation and what's advertising, and they'll strip out the share this links and really try to identify what is like the meat and the content. And so he's like, who here uses either like Readability or Instapaper or service like that? Okay, cool. So I don't have to make a case for this. Anyway, so my bookmarklet piggybacks off of Readability, and it makes use of Readability's API to fetch their cleaned up, sort of stripped down HTML that they produce and save in a database, and then takes that HTML, feeds it to an HTML to TeX conversion script, then sends that TeX or LaTeX to a LaTeX compiler, and then compiles it as with a hopefully more print-friendly PDF. So there we go. And I really haven't done much with the LaTeX style sheets to try to come up with what would be the ultimate presentation for a typical article. This is just proof of concept stuff. But I guess a few things that you notice off the bat in terms of like how this looks different from a web page is that it has like multiple columns, so you get like a shorter line length, which is supposed to be better for reading. You also get left-right justification, where the text is sort of justified on both sides, which is important if you are doing multi-column layouts. And there's a few other features that I'll go into in a moment. All right, let's back to the slides. All right. Now, if I was really serious about LaTeX, I would have not used PowerPoint and rendered these in LaTeX. All right. So there we go. Here's like a little diagram, just sort of like illustrating the process. And it's basically just like a little 200-line Perl script that links together these various services. All right, so I guess sort of like one of the sort of like inspirations or one of the triggers for this project was a Hackfest project from Access 2010 in Winnipeg, and I guess sort of came up yesterday in conversation. I think it was your idea, Bill, to do this, right? So there's this idea to produce a nice looking printed library thing catalog. So that's taking sort of the data you might have about your collection that's represented in library thing, exporting it, and then using LaTeX or think like BibTeX to create like a really just sort of nice looking print version of your print bibliography of your library thing collection. And I think one thing that's kind of interesting about this project is that it's sort of getting the idea that just because content is been sort of developed online using a web system doesn't mean that you're always going to want to be looking at it on the web. And sometimes you really want to take this sort of like content that's rendering format that's very much of the print world and the print universe, and very much like in alignment with sort of, centuries of print tradition. Just the idea one of the ideas for this project is that you could use this list to create a nice looking sign-out sheet for a local lending library. Or say, when it comes to like your will or your estate, you could have a very nice, respectable looking document that, tells people this is my present collection of books. So just, imagine sort of like archival, applications for this. And so, I don't know, to make like a bit of an analogy, this is my, My Fair Lady, sort of an analogy I've just been sort of thinking about is because maybe you can kind of think of Henry Higgins as being a little bit like LaTeX, sort of training, sort of Cockney, I guess the flower seller, Eliza Doolittle, sort of sort of how to speak properly and how to carry herself properly so that she can sort of pass muster in sort of high society, print society. So I think that's what LaTeX can do. LaTeX can be the Henry Higgins to sort of like a web page or like EPUB book that happened online. All right, and it is kind of funny actually. Like when you think about when you're taking a web page and you're sending it to your printer, sort of like all the mechanisms that are used for laying out a web page are, they're sort of like print CSS style sheets, or you're using sort of like your browser's rendering mechanisms to lay out, this document for print. Currently, I guess you are seeing a lot more attention. A lot of web publishers are paying a lot more attention to the print style sheets to strip out things like navigation. And sort of as an end user, you are able to convert your web page to a PDF that because that means you something. But it is funny that even when you take a web page and you save it as PDF, you are still using kind of like web fonts and web layout mechanisms, which really are fundamentally different from print. So here's, for example, like a scan of a page from an article in the New Yorker, and then here is, you go to the New Yorker and go navigate to an article, and then you print it. This is what you get, and it's quite different. I guess as I mentioned earlier, like in any magazine that is using a page with that's this wide, your content is going to be broken up into multiple columns for easier reading, and of course you do get this left-right justification. Whereas you just get used to reading text on the web with sort of this ragged edge. And this is actually kind of, look at this, it is kind of exhausting to read this page. And then, just as an example, so this was something that was rendered using my little bookmarklets. So you can kind of see that we're kind of getting a little bit, I'd like to think that this looks more like a printed page, if something that was laid out for print than a web page, but it's getting there. So a little bit about LaTeX. I guess who here has used LaTeX before? Anyone has some LaTeX enthusiasts? Okay, good. It's a little intimidating because I haven't really used LaTeX a lot. I guess I kind of believe in it, and I'm really impressed with it, but I really don't know that much about markup or its history, and it is a tool with quite a cult following. So it's a typesetting system that was first released in 1978, and it's both a markup language and a compiler document preparation system, sort of all in one. It's its own kind of monolithic system or universe for creating just sort of gorgeous print documents. And it's used extensively in the math and the sciences for publishing academic papers, and a lot of science books are typeset in LaTeX. It's very good support for mathematical formulas and also foreign language character sets. And it was developed by Donald Knuth, who is you can see on the left there. That's a screenshot from his webpage. And just like a tip, if you ever want to see something neat online, go check out his homepage. It's good for a few laughs. I think the webpage almost seems like a joke that he's pulling in just to show his contempt for web typography, and he's not even trying. It's just I would say it's pretty singing. It's great. It's pretty great because he's a genius. And it's funny, I was just kind of digging around, reading stuff written by LaTeX enthusiasts on the web. You come across quotes like this, people who are really into LaTeX are, like, there's people who are just really disgusted with like, the state of like layout and typography on the web. So you have people saying stuff like, no hyphenation, Kerning, you're leading. Newton Liang solved this problem decades ago. That lack is what makes web typography ugly. And so I guess we're all pretty like aware of the fact that like I guess that on the web there's been like a very you don't have a lot of like fonts to choose from. That's sort of being addressed with like services like Typekit and WebKit. But there's other things that go into like laying out a page for print. Some details that I really wasn't very aware of until recently. For example, when it comes to line breaking and determining what, like, if you have a paragraph of text, where do you insert the line breaks? This is a paragraph. So sorry, you can't see it very well. This is a paragraph that is sort of rendered web browser. It's just HTML and CSS, and it's styled with left-right justification. And so it, CSS is doing left-right justification. You often see these very like large gaps in between the words, and this paragraph of text takes up 10 lines. Whereas this is the same text, the same paragraph rendered in LaTeX, and I believe like I don't know anything about the algorithms that do line breaking, but they involve actually passing through the paragraph text several times, figuring out exactly, like, given this combination of words, like, how do you allocate the words across like a certain number of lines so that you're able to like squeeze as many letters, as many words into a number of lines as possible, while still, you know, it's not going to be able to get. So this is only, I think this is only 9 lines long, and this is 10 lines long. So this actually takes up less space, and you don't see like sort of large differences in the spacing between each word. And apparently the algorithms for like doing those kind of calculations are fairly like computationally intensive, and that's one of the reasons why you don't see that being implemented in web browsers yet. Also, if you're doing left-right justification, it's important to have hyphenation, again, in order to avoid those like big gaps in between the words. And there's like certain nuanced hyphenation algorithms that you need to observe in order to do hyphenation properly. So the word hyphenated over here and over here. Including if you are doing hyphenation in different languages, you need different word pair dictionaries to determine where you break the word. It's pretty nuanced. Then there's Kerning. So Kerning is one of those like sort of like designer secrets that I didn't like. People who are like professional designers know this stuff, but I didn't know about it until recently. And I'm like, that's one of the things that designers know that makes them professional. So the word war on top. Those 3 characters are just spaced out with no kerning. Just sort of each character occupies the same amount of space, and there's an equal amount of space between each character. This war was laid out using a kerning algorithm that looks at, for each character, given its dimensions, tries to space them so that there's like visually a fairly equal amount of space between each character, rather than having this like large gap over here that is getting kind of tight over here. And then this was actually, I guess, kerned by hand, where somebody's looking at it with their own eye and using their own judgment as to exactly how evenly each letter should be spaced apart. And so LaTeX has, of course, like sophisticated kerning algorithms to get this right. So it looks as close as possible to the hand-done result, rather than something that looks like it was, laid out by a computer. But I guess with LaTeX, it's not a very web-friendly technology. Of course, like you need to know the LaTeX markup language in order to speak to it. And it just it resists having like a WYSIWYG laid on top. And getting people to like learn like semantic HTML is often hard enough, and the tech is more advanced than that. And you can convert HTML into LaTeX markup. But your HTML needs to be posh. That's sort of like a recent coinage for plain old semantic HTML. So it's good. So as you can say, like you want to encourage like web authors to write posh HTML. Make sure HTML is posh.
What developer old and semantic wouldn't be critical for the wall?
Oh, pardon?
No. That all and semantic wouldn't be like same oxymoron or oxymoron.
Yeah. And also often with LaTeX packages, it's sort of assumed that you're going to be installing LaTeX on your Linux desktop computer. Even like the lightest weight LaTeX packages are like loaded up with like math fonts, and they're over 100 megabytes large. And like I it sometimes can be a bit of a challenge to figure out how to install the LaTeX entirely like on a web server, particularly if you don't have root access. Anyway, so that's where readability steps in. So readability provides an API that allows you to fetch posh HTML for basically any web page you tell it to. And readability, they're now providing a sort of like a publisher payment layer, which is kind of interesting. If you subscribe to the readability service, they will turn over 70% of your subscription fee to publishers, and then of course they keep 30% for themselves. And even though they're exploring new models of like publisher payment, and I guess it's we'll see sort of like which models succeed or whether this is like a good idea or not. But I found when developing this book booklet, I found it was nice to be working with a service that's attempting to like compensate publishers for like fetching and using their content rather than just using like wget and feel like I'm building something that's pirating content. So it's interesting. And then I wasn't even though I probably with like a better web host, I probably could install LaTeX on my web server. I wasn't able to figure it out right away, so I started using the common LaTeX service interface, which is like a great free web service that people at Scriptex have set up. And so it's basically LaTeX compiler's web service. So you just throw in a text file, and it will return a rendered PDF to you. So again, here's the diagram of the whole process. It's moving along. There's tools that I used. And it's funny, when I was writing like the Perl script that glues all this together, it was really just trying to get the system to work. And yesterday I was definitely thinking I would have benefited from using like a framework like Zend in order to handle like the OAuth authentication, and like would be interested in like re-implementing the script properly, because OAuth really is well I think I spent like most of my time implementing this was just working with OAuth. Yeah. So here's Professor Henry Higgins again, and why can't a web page be more like a book? Why can't a web page be more like a magazine? And I don't know. I was thinking about, there's something like, well, doing this project, I was sort of thinking to myself, I have kind of ambivalent feelings about it. Like there's something kind of silly about it, taking something that's like, intended for the web. So here's like a printed out web page, and then trying to convert it into something that looks, that looks very much like of the print universe. And when you strip out like sort of like the URL and just like the underlining, like hyperlinking, like you kind of forget the fact that this was originally intended as a web document. And what's so bad about something being a web page? Like I don't think there's any, I'm very much like probably more of a web person than a print person. There isn't any like shame in being web content. And I think I guess sort of like the lessons of My Fair Lady, I've been thinking about those and they kind of apply with this project, but I think there are potentially some like useful applications for it. So continue to work on it. So first of all, I'll ask if anyone has any questions, but I'll also say if you have any ideas about this project or any suggestions on what direction to go in next, I'd be interested in hearing about that. Thank you.
So you have like a style sheet that put on top of the web page, or you just use the LaTeX to HTML?
Do you have a style sheet, like a
LaTeX style sheet that you kind of.
At the moment, I'm just using LaTeX sort of like default formatting options for articles, and I could get into what the term is for, I guess, sort of like LaTeX equivalent of CSS, but I could do more to come up with an optimal layout or something like this. Or
an extension would be to just kind of drop down of choosing, I don't know, New York Times format of printing.
Yeah.
Like different. Really cool.
Like magazine style or book
does it handle images?
The thing, my little bookmarklet is not properly handling images right now, although that's just because I haven't debugged it yet, and there should be, like the HTML to PDF Perl script that I'm using, it's like an open source script, it does support images, so. And of course, it would be using sort of like LaTeX conventions for sort of aligning and positioning those images.
I can think of one definite use that I would find in my organization for a script like this. I don't know, I think looking at the faces around here, probably people here that I'm in the minority here being public library, but a lot of our public service staff still like to make pathfinders a lot. And they typically make them by going into Microsoft Word and copying some cover images for the website and sticking in Microsoft Word fonts, and they don't usually look that great when printed out. If there was a way that they could be building these as web pages, not only would you get the Pathfinder on the web page, but run it through a script like this and produce a really nice looking PDF Pathfinder that I printed out.
Yeah, I mean, I actually, at work, that's been one application I've been thinking about is I do, there's a lot of staff in my library who do use Microsoft Word for creating documents. A lot of places I'd rather people, like say if you're writing up the meeting minutes for like a committee meeting, I think it's preferable to post them, say like on the staff website or on a wiki where that content can be, collaboratively edited, it can be keyword searched in your content management system. So I definitely like encourage people to post their content in web form. But if you do provide a mechanism that allows people to create a very appealing printed document that they can read and circulate emails and attachment, that might be motivation for content authors to author their content in the web rather than using something like Word. Yeah.
I missed the URL. Where can I get that bookmarklet?
Bookmarklet? I can't. Okay, I can probably post the bookmarklet to
Bill, are you interested in
the
LaTeX?
site, but it's. But the bookmarklet, it is. I'm kind of irritated that right at the moment it has to be a sort of two-stage process. You first have to apply the readability bookmarklet, then you have to apply my bookmarklet, and I'm hoping just in the next week or two I'll be able to resolve that, and so that it will be an all-in-one bookmarklet that you can share. Oh, actually, sorry, just one other comment. When using this, it did make me think a bit about like the EPUB format as well, and using LaTeX to create like really booky-looking printouts of ebooks, and I think that's an opportunity that ebook publishers could exploit.
We're currently loading XML books, and you would think that because we're getting them in XML, a lot of these problems would be solved, but it's quite the opposite. So if you could help us style our XML books like this, that would be great.
No.